Karen Bobo.
Karen Bobo. So she's here. I forgot to raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Be seated. State your name for the record and spell first and last.
Karen Bobo, Karenbobo.
Let me say count. Did you spell your old number?
I did, sir.
With it is okay.
It is okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Brady, earlier, you were in the court, present in court earlier when Dana Bobo testified,
Yes, ma'am.
and that's your husband.
It is.
How long ago they married?
35 years.
Got two children together?
2 children, Clint and Holly.
And Holly's date of birth?
10/12/90.
And the whole time that she was alive, where did you live? And you also, well, I should just speak up. You know it's hard. Not everybody, nobody can be able to hear.
Yes, ma'am.
And Holly never moved out of the house, or did she, once she graduated from high school and started college, and she stayed in your house?
Yes, she'd always stayed in our house. She'd never moved out.
Been some mention today about her being in a nursing program. When did she graduate from high school?
She graduated in 2009.
Did she go to college first?
She did. She actually took a couple classes in high school, college classes, and then after graduating high school, she went to college for a year.
Where did she go?
Jackson State, Lexington campus.
And after that year, did she transfer to a different program?
She did. It was a bridging program, a 12-month program that bridged into the RN program. And they were a handpicked, I believe, 25. And they called and asked her if she would be in that program.
Okay, and where did she take classes after her first year in Jackson?
The nursing class was at UT Martin Parsons campus.
And how far away from your home was this UT Martin Parsons?
About 6 miles.
Now, was it a rigorous program?
Very rigorous.
How many days a week did Holly go to school?
Holly went to school 4 days a week. She was off on Friday.
What happened? She spent Fridays.
She spent her Fridays house cleaning. She would usually get up pretty early, clean the house so she could have the afternoon to do something else.
What were Dana's hours back in that time?
To the best of my memory, he probably left home around 5:30 and got home around 5:30 or 6 in the afternoon.
And he was working for McKinsey Tree Service?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about you? How did you spend your days?
I spent my day teaching 2nd grade at Scottsdale Elementary School. I usually tried, my goal was always to leave at by 7 o'clock, and I got home around 3:30 every day.
And what about Clint?
Clint was working part-time and going to school at UT Martin in Martin 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Your husband said that he was a social worker. Was he already a social worker at that time?
No, ma'am. He was working at the nursing home.
Studying to be what?
Studying to be a social worker.
Okay. So is it fair to say that during the day, Monday through Friday, except when Holly was off on Fridays, generally, was everybody gone?
Yes, ma'am.
Who left first most days, Holly or Clint?
Most days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Clint left early, like at 6 o'clock. I think his first class was at 8 at Martin. And then on Monday and Wednesday, I believe Holly left first.
And this routine, this family life, was that pretty, did it just repeat itself week after week? Yeah, you got
Yes, ma'am.
Holly going to school, Clint doing both?
Yes, ma'am. Very routine.
You saw me put a picture of a young lady up on the overhead earlier. Who is that?
That's my daughter, Holly.
I want to draw your attention on 13th, 2011. Do you remember what day of the week that was?
Wednesday.
And was that Wednesday very much like every other Wednesday in your household?
It was.
Do you remember if Holly had anything special going on in school?
When I got up that morning, Holly's door was closed. Clint's door was open. So I closed his door. He snores, plus he had a surround sound. I think the television was on in the surround sound, so I closed his door and opened hers. and she was sitting on the bed studying. I think she told me she'd been up since 4:30 that morning studying. So I went on about my business, getting ready. And then later, I packed her lunch, and then she asked me to get her some muffins.
Let me stop you here.
Yes, ma'am.
So, this conversation that you had with her when she was sitting on her bed, did she see herself?
Yes, ma'am.
Everything was normal.
Everything was very well.
Then you said she was studying for a test.
She was. They had a test just about every day, but depending on what they were studying as to how much she had to study extra. So it must have been something pretty hard.
Because she was already up.
Because she was already up.
Now, you said you went on about your business. At some point, did Holly leave her bedroom and go somewhere else in the house?
She did. She left her bedroom and evidently had taken a shower and put her clothes on.
Why do you say that?
Because when I left, she was sitting at the dining room table studying. And she asked me, could I grab her some muffins, because I usually fixed muffins every other morning. And I remember telling her yes, and I got them out of the refrigerator and put them in the microwave. And I said, just heat them up. I'm in a hurry, got to go.
You said you made her lunch. What's your with that?
I think I stuck it back in the refrigerator. So that's what I did every morning. Made her lunch and then stuck it back in the fridge.
And did you notice or see lunch/gas money that had been left somewhere in the kitchen by your husband?
Yes, at some point in time, I picked up the $20 bill. And I guess Holly must have been in the shower, because I went into her bedroom and I was afraid she would forget it. Because that's just how I was, always doing everything, making sure nobody forgot anything. So I took the money and I actually put it in her wallet, in her purse.
Did you tell her goodbye?
I did. Told her goodbye and I loved her. That was
When you told her that.
She was sitting at the dining room table studying.
Do you remember what time you left for work?
Around 7.
And when you left, what door did you go out?
I went out the back door, the door I always used.
Now, there have been some pictures of the attached carport. Did you see those pictures today?
I did.
Is that the area that you parked your car in?
Yes, ma'am.
If we are standing outside of the carport looking at the cars, you park where?
Holly parked on this side.
Left or right? If we're looking at the rear of the cars.
If you're looking at the rear of the cars, hers would be on the left and mine would be on the right. So I had to walk past her car to get to my car.
Is your car there?
Her car was there.
Everything seemed normal in your garage or in your carport?
Yes.
Did you see or hear anything that concerns you?
No.
You said you left approximately 7. When you got there, how long did it take you to get to school?
Takes me about 25 minutes.
Did you do anything special while you were in the car driving?
I talked to a friend of mine, Tina Cruz, on the phone.
And frankly, was that something you did nearly every day?
Yes. She had a long drive. I had a long drive. So we usually talked every morning on the way to school.
And did any texts or any calls come in while you were talking to Tina that interrupted that conversation?
Yes, Holly tried to call me.
Did you hang up with Tina or did you not pick up on with Holly?
I can't remember if I waited till I got to school to call Holly and pulled in the parking lot, or if I let Tina go and talk to Holly then.
But you talked to Holly on the phone after you left your house about the time you were getting to school?
Yes.
Did you talk to Holly once or more than once?
More than once.
What in the world were you talking about since she had a test and it was time for you to go to work?
Well, she told me that she had spoken with Drew. She had talked to Drew on the phone, and that he was on my mom's property turkey hunting, and he had run into my cousin's son, and that they had questioned him and wanted to know who gave him permission to hunt.
So he had permission to hunt, right?
He did. It was just kind of a blanket permission.
So based on that conversation, did you make some other calls, reach out, call your mother, do that kind of thing?
Yes, I don't remember in which order, but I called Drew and asked him, was everything okay? And he told me that Bo had asked him about who gave him permission. He told him that Holly's grandmother, and told him that he was Holly's boyfriend. And then I called my mom and told her that Drew was over there hunting. And then I called Holly back and told her everything was okay.
And when you called her back to say everything was okay, did you know at that time whether she was still at home or did you think she had left for school?
No, I think she was still at home.
I mean, you didn't ask her.
I didn't ask her, no. But by the timing, I thought she was still at home.
Did all of these sort of back and forth calls with your mom and Holly and Drew, did that cause you to be a minute late to get into your classroom or to get into school?
Yes, it did. And we're not supposed to have our cell phones with us. So I left my phone in my room and I walked to the cafeteria where my students already were and the other second grade teacher was watching both classes.
And so the other teacher had actually had to carry your kids to the
Yes.
cafeteria.
Yes.
Right. And you said you left your phone in your room.
Yes.
Your classroom.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember about what time breakfast at Scotts Hill, is it elementary?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Happened, like, what time was that when you were in the cafeteria with the kids?
We usually went to breakfast, I think about 7:35 or 7:40, somewhere around there.
So they were already there and you walked in.
Yes.
Nevertheless, was it before 8?
Yes, ma'am.
Was your plan that you would be the one to take the kids back to the classroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Did you do that?
No.
Tell the jury what happened.
I hadn't been in the cafeteria very long, and the secretary of the school came to the cafeteria and she said that the neighbor had called and said she didn't want to alarm me, but she thought she heard screams coming from the house. So that's not a phone call that I got every day. I never gotten a phone call like that. So I almost instantly got into a panic at that point, walking pretty fast back to in the school because our cafeteria is outside the school. So I go back inside the building and I went and used the phone and I called.
Where did you go? You said you go back to the building. Where?
To the library, to the closest phone I could get to, which normally would have been the office phone, but I must have looked over there and there were parents bringing their kids in, so that's why I used the library phone. But I called Clint and I asked my son Clint what's going on. And he said, did Holly not have school today? And I said, yes, why? And he said, well, I think she's out here with Drew. And I don't know what made me say it. This instant panic came over me and I said, that's not Drew. Call all the neighbors, I think is what I said. And then I ran over to the office and I called 911. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I remember they said it was Henderson County and we live in Decatur County, so I hung up. I think I fell on the floor at that point. And I guess I called Clint back, but I don't really remember now if it was from the library phone or the office phone, and he was still talking about, was Holly not going to school today when she turkey hunting with Drew? And I said, that's not Drew. And at some point I said, get a gun and shoot him. And I remember Clint saying, you want me to shoot Drew? And then a friend of mine and co-worker, Terry Bromley, I think she pulled me up out of the floor. And she was pulling me to her. We were trying to get to her vehicle. And as soon as we got to her vehicle, I called 911 again, and I got Decatur County that time.
So Terry Bromley is a friend and a co-worker?
Friend, co-worker, used to be Holly's basketball coach.
So somebody that had known Holly
since she was in 6th grade, maybe.
Said she, being Miss Bromley, was pulling you towards where?
Toward the gym. She parked in front of the gym.
So she was going to take you?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you in any shape to drive at that point?
No.
Did you have your cell phone?
I didn't.
Because
it was down in my room.
Did Terry start heading back towards your house?
Yes.
You said 25 minutes that you're not speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
And you made another phone call. Whose phone did you use?
Terry's.
Did you call?
I called 911 with her phone.
And you got somebody that time on the phone?
I did.
Look at a disc and see if you can tell us if you recognize it or not.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you recognize this disc as opposed to every other disc?
Because I initialed it.
What is it?
It's my 911 call.
Your Honor, ask that we mark this as the next numbered exhibit. I think you initialed it. Did you initial that after listening?
Yes, ma'am.
Does this truly reflect what you told the 911 operator on your way back home?
Yes, ma'am.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah, Curry, Kenny, 911.
This is Amy. What's wrong, man?
Somebody has my daughter.
Okay.
Let's kidnap her. 331 Johnson Road. Please get there now.
They're on their way. Is that where you live?
Yes, I'm in school. I'm trying to get there.
Okay, you live in Karen?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Somebody's screaming. He looked at it. Somebody broke him up like got Holly.
Okay. I got officers on the way right now. Okay, Karen?
Please help me.
They're on their way, sweetie, right now. This is Robert.
Robert, please help me. Out there.
They're on their way, sweetie. I got everybody on their way right now already.
Oh, my God.
What, do we know? Say Clint seen them? Are they in a vehicle? Okay. Okay. All right. I've got officers here, and I'm gonna let them know. Okay.
Father Towns is like a
Please get everybody out there.
Okay. They're on their way, sweetie. They're on the way right now. Okay, and this is going. Hey, what's your daughter's name, Miss Karen? Okay, Miss Holly. Okay, and she's what, 16, 17? Okay, she's 20. All right. 20-year-old female, blonde hair. Yeah, male, full camouflage. Drug her off through the woods. That will be behind your house here? Okay, it's gonna be right there in Esther house. Yeah. Okay. I got one away. You know, everybody is on the way.
Did Terry drive you home?
Yes, she did.
When we got there, what was going on in the house?
I think I remember seeing two. I remember seeing Jeremy Pratt because I knew him. He went to church with us.
Who was that?
He was a police officer for Decatur County. And he told me I couldn't go around to the back of the house. I couldn't go in the woods. I remember just slinging him off on me, and I took off running. Terry and I both took off running. I do remember seeing Clint when I got there. I think he was standing out beside the cop car. I remember seeing Kathy Wise, my neighbor. I remember her saying, "You can't go around to the back of the house." And I think I fell down then too.
As the morning wore on, did more people come?
More people came.
Did more law enforcement come?
They did.
You have any idea how many people out there at your house, the yard, the roads, the woods?
I don't know.
At some point that day, were you asked to leave your house so that law enforcement could do some work there?
Sometime, I think it was around lunch, maybe.
Did y'all do that?
We did.
How long was it before you went back to the house?
Friday night. That was on Wednesday. And we went back and got some clothes. Maybe the next day. But we didn't stay at our house again until late that Friday night.
You said you took off running to the woods with Terry. What were you doing? What were you trying to do?
I was just trying to find Holly.
And is that what you devoted yourself to from that moment to forward?
Yes, ma'am.
Over the next days and weeks, did your life change dramatically from what it was when you got up on that Wednesday morning?
It did. It went from just a average family, very routine, to it was day and night, and that's about it. We didn't keep up with the time. We were just looking for Holly, and our house was full of people once we got back home. And then I started keeping notebooks and keeping notes, and we'd turn all the tips and leads in, but then we'd also follow up on them too. And we went to people's homes, questioning them, and then the people weren't home, and we thought a building looked abandoned or something. We'd just go in it. We were just constantly searching day and night.
Not just you, though, right?
No, it was
A lot of people.
a lot of people. I don't think my sister or some of my teacher friends went back to school the rest of that year. And then we searched all summer, and then I didn't go to work. I didn't go back that whole next year.
You said you didn't go back, and you didn't go back to work.
No, I didn't. My mom moved in with us and lived with us because I wasn't capable of taking care of myself, basically.
I want to pass you a stack of 8 pictures. Keep them in this order and look at them and tell me when you've finished, okay? Do you recognize what is in each of those pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
What do they show?
They show the inside of our house.
Just parts of the inside of your house or all of it?
No, just parts of it.
I want you to look over your left shoulder.
They're out in the hallway.
Looking at, while they're fixing the lights, looking at what's been marked as Exhibit 18. What is the jury looking at right in this room?
That's our living room.
And this door?
That's our front door.
All right, so if you come in the front door, you walk directly into the living room.
Yes.
What is this open door in the rear
That's
or the left?
mine and Dana's bedroom.
On the other side of this wall is what? If you were to go around,
That's our bedroom, and then bathroom and closet.
where is the carport in relation to this room?
At the back, going that way at the back of the living room.
Is Exhibit 19 the same room but from a different angle?
That's the same room. That's our front door.
This right here.
That there were side lights on each side of the door.
You're saying the word side lights?
Side lights.
And was this structure on both sides?
Yes.
You could stand on one side and see outside
Yes.
without opening the door?
Yes.
And what is this room down here?
And that's our den.
Again, is this the front?
Yes.
Front door? On
Yes,
the
ma'am.
front. Side light?
Yes.
What's through this door?
That's where you walk into the kitchen, then dining room, then the other bathroom, and Clint and Holly's bedrooms.
Next one. Doorway, whose room are we looking into?
That's Holly's bedroom.
Okay, and is this the view you have from standing in the hall?
Right when you walk through the door.
What is this?
That's her bed, and
Where are these and what's this?
that's where she had her pillows up against the wall studying that morning. And that's her comforter and her cowboy hat.
And this is the way her bedding and room looked when you last saw her sitting there
Yes.
before she moved to the kitchen table.
Yes, ma'am.
And you asked to retrieve something out of the Holly's belongings or out of the dirty clothes basket. By law enforcement.
Yes.
What were you asked to find?
They asked me to. I think they asked me to get a pair of her panties.
And did you find a pair of her panties
Yes, I did.
out of that basket?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you provide those to law enforcement?
I did.
I'm going to pass forward a bag and gloves. If you don't have to take them out, you don't have to. But look in there and tell me if you recognize
Those are Holly's panties.
Are those the panties that you provided to law enforcement?
Yes, it is.
Did you know why they wanted that particular item of clothing from Holly?
I did not.
Then just asking for it and then you turned it up for Tom.
I did.
I asked you a few minutes ago what door you went out going to work that morning.
The back door.
If you walk out your back door, are there any steps down to the carport or is it smooth?
You walk out onto the back deck and then directly to your left as you're going out, you'll go down 2 steps into the carport.
How did you get to your car? What did you pass by?
I passed by Holly's car.
And in passing to get to Holly's car, did you go down those steps?
I went down those steps in front of her car, around to my car.
I'm going to pass forward 2 photographs. Do you recognize the steps concrete in the front of a car?
I do.
In fact, the front of one of the cars and a license plate tag that you recognize.
Yes.
And what are these pictures of? Whose house? Whose carport?
That's ours.
Are these steps that you walked down to get to your car on April the 13th?
Yes.
Karen, when you went down the steps,
That blow is not there.
when you walked, are these the steps you talked about?
Those are the steps, but that blow is not there. But I did see it later that day.
When you left that morning, this is directly how you walked.
Yes, ma'am.
You've seen it.
I would have seen that blood. It was not there.
So this is the way you came out the back door, walked down the step. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Steps down. What
Yes.
about these drops?
They weren't there.
Can't hear you.
They weren't there.
You said that over the next weeks and months, you didn't go back to school. You just sort of did a lot of searching and following up on leads. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you actually look in abandoned buildings and structures that weren't abandoned? Just whatever you could look, you looked.
Yes.
Was your number, your cell number, like out there in the public? I mean, had it been?
Yes. I think I even had it put on a card at some point in time
So that people could call you.
so that people could call.
And at some point, did you get a call from a young lady that identified herself as Ednesha Pressure?
Yes, I did.
Can you describe that phone call for the jury?
She called me and she said, I think I have this is Holly's. I'm not sure exactly what she said, but I think she said, is this Holly's mom? And I said, yes. And she said she had Holly's SIM card. And so I told Dana and Clint, and they agreed to go meet her.
Okay, let me ask you this. When you got that, did you actually think that somebody did have her SIM card?
I did, but Dana didn't.
And so did Dana go someplace to meet this woman who had called, or this young lady that had called?
Yes. Him and Clint went, and
Returned with something.
they did. And while they was gone, I called. I don't remember if I called the TBI or the local law enforcement and told them about it.
And did the law enforcement come to your house?
They did. They came and got the SIM card that night.
So you sort of answered my next question. Did they bring a SIM card back?
Yes, they did.
And then you turned it over to law enforcement that
Yes.
Did you put it in a phone or check it out to see if it was hers or not?
No.
Just turned it over.
Yes.
Did you, in the course of, I guess, trying to help law enforcement look for Holly, did you even provide them a list of things that were in her purse?
I did.
How did you know what was in her purse?
Because I'd put the money in her purse that morning, and I knew what was in her purse because her wallet, she and I bought when we went to Maurice's together, and her purse. I'm sure I probably bought the pencil bag, or we'd gotten it together because Holly, she never wanted to go. She hated to shop. So usually if she shopped, we went together. I'd just pick up something and it was fine with her.
So were you able to give law enforcement a whole list of things that they should be on the lookout for that would have been in her purse?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you also describe for them what she was wearing that morning since you saw her studying at the kitchen table?
Yes, I did.
What was she wearing?
She was wearing a pair of jeans and a girly girl t-shirt.
What does that mean?
That's a name brand. In the back of it said, I think it said, "Don't squat with your spurs on." And then I didn't know what kind of shoes she was wearing because she didn't have her shoes. But when I went to her closet, I was able to tell them by what pair was missing. And I didn't, of course, see her in her bra and panties, but I was also able to tell them what bra and panties was missing because I did most of the laundry, even though Holly house cleaned, she didn't do much laundry.
And what kind of shoes did you tell law enforcement that Holly was wearing?
A pair of black Old Navy flip-flops.
So,
And we had actually talked about that morning because she had, not that she was going to wear flip-flops, but she had asked me what the weather was going to be. I said, I think it's kind of going to be cool this morning, but hot in the afternoon.
and that was during the time when she was studying for her test?
Yes.
Do you remember today what kind of test it was or what she had to turn in that day?
No, I don't.
I want you to look at one document and ask if you recognize it.
I do.
What is that?
That's her. She had to study for her names of different drugs, I think, but that is definitely her handwriting.
Is there a date on the paper?
4/13/11.
You said, while we're doing that, you said she had been working on some note cards for different drugs. And this says drug card rate sheet. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Whose writing is this?
That's Holly's writing.
And what's the date?
4/13/2011.
That's the last morning you saw her.
That is.
Did you pack your lunch up there?
I did.
What her lunch box looked like?
Remember, it had polka dots on it. It had her initials.
You can pull it out.
It's her
Holly's lunch box.
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to unzip it now. That sandwich you made for her?
Yes.
Is that her lunch?
Yes, ma'am.
You left that morning. That was in the refrigerator. Your Honor, I'm not going to pass it. May I have permission to hold it up?
Yes.
I asked you a little while ago whether you were able to provide law enforcement with a list of things that Holly had with her in her purse, if her purse was with her, right?
Yes.
You felt pretty comfortable that you would, with the items or what you told them that she had. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Show you one more item. What is this?
It looks like her purse.
Is that her purse? The straps are gone. And she recognized that as being.
Your Honor, sorry, but I'm a technical person. I know it's very emotional, but it's hard.
You might have to get a little closer to the mic.
That is her purse. It's very hard to look at all that stuff all tattered and torn because it didn't look like that morning, but that's her purse.
Did you tell TDI that there would be a camera in her purse?
I did.
Do you recognize this?
And that's her camera.
Holly's car was still there, right? At your house when you got back.
Yes, it was.
Did you tell TDI that she had the keys and she had a key ring in her purse?
Yes, she did.
Did you describe for them, or can you describe what her
It was
looked like?
it was a big H and it had like rhinestones. And the browning symbol.
And the what symbol?
The browning, like she had on the back of her car, the pink browning symbol and the H. That's her keys.
This is her car key.
Yes, ma'am.
Permission just to hold it up, Your Honor.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier in your testimony that you told them about her wallet because you were there when she purchased it.
Yes. That is her wallet.
I'm going to open it. There appear to be several cards in here. What is that?
That's her prescription card, medicine card.
What is this one?
That's her Jackson State ID. That's her doctor when she goes to the doctor.
Her insurance card?
Her insurance card. Has her driver's license?
Yes, this be marked as 30. I'm going to ask that the wallet be passed back to Ms. Bobo, and I want you to look in it and tell me if there's a $20 bill where you get going about money.
No, there's nothing in it.
How have an inhaler?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
Hey, this has been unfelt thing.
Let's take a look at this. I want everyone to remain with me while the jury files that plea. Got a nurse. Come on. Let's let the jury go ahead and file out. Get some lights, Clark, please.
Watch yourself. Hey, don't move. Come here, Karen. Come here, baby.
Everyone else remain with me,
Come on,
please.
baby.
I feel like I can't breathe.
All right, put your legs back. Sit down.
All right, let's close the media down, please. We'll bring that back in a minute. Defense counsel indicated that they wanted the jury out. Let's be glad to hear it going.
Reflect that the time that Miss Bobo was being cross-examined, Miss Nichols was at the
She wasn't being cross-examined, direct
examination. She was being handed certain items, very personal items. And at that time, apparently, Karen Bobo suffered a panic attack. She passed out in front of the jury. She required medical attention. And under these facts, I think it's going to be impossible for her to get a fair trial, for Mr. Adams to get a fair trial from an impartial jury. I think they're so tainted at this point that the proceedings should be stopped and a new jury should be called.
All right, let me say this. The witness was within 5 feet of the court. She first started, she said words to the effect that she was not feeling well. Before I could get a recess call, and we had a little problem I was trying to solve media-wise, that I'd almost called a recess, that hearing the recess. But before I could get a recess call, she in fact has a medical event, and she passed out cold. This chair is fixed, so they had some difficulties extricating her. The jury was in passing or filing out the door at that time. This was clearly a medical event. There's no question. This was not something fake to gain sympathy. This lady had a medical issue. Had a couple of, a nurse came up immediately, thank you, whoever that was. And then they've had paramedics on call. The sheriff has been, he's had them here arranged since day one. They won't give us an ambulance, but they will give us paramedics close. They have dealt with her. They feel that she's ready to go now. They said extremely low blood pressure when they first started, as I understand, very rapid heartbeat, the types of things that are consistent with syncopic events. Okay? And I know because I've had it, and they're no fun. But this was not something that was done in an effort to achieve any type of sympathy or anything. If you want me to, I'll instruct the jury that they are not to give any sympathy whatsoever because of the fact that Bobo apparently had a medical event, which your motion for mistrial vote for.
Your Honor.
If you want me to instruct them for that?
Yes, Your Honor, I would ask for it. And also, Your Honor, after they finish their direct examination, we would like, of course, to have an opportunity for cross-examination because of the medical event. We would ask that we have a recess until in the morning to begin our cross-examination.
I'm not going to do that. I will continue to watch. Basically, the paramedics have given me the thumbs up at this time. So, I'm trying to march this case toward conclusion. I don't know any reason to lose that kind of time. I'll make sure that you have an adequate opportunity to cross-examine, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Let me say this, we've been on recess about 30 minutes. Immediately prior to that recess, the witness had a medical event that necessitated us getting a recess. Everything should be good to go now. I want to tell you and instruct you that you're to have no sympathy or prejudice for either side of this case. The mere fact that she had a medical event, please don't sympathize with that side of the case because of that. Listen to the testimony, give it the weight you think that it deserves, but just basically set aside the fact that she had a medical event. Okay, will each of you do that? All right, thank you. All right, you can continue. And I've instructed the attorneys to speak up. Ms. Bobo, you might have to get on that mic, okay?
Yes, sir.
I had my hearing checked last Wednesday to make sure I wasn't going down. And believe it or not, it was pretty good. But I've lost a little bit of high frequency. It said it might affect hearing the high-pitched females, or said something like your grandkids. I said, you don't know my grandkids. There's no problem hearing them. All right, go.
Ms. Bobo, you
Did you get 34 mark? Yes, sir.
You indicated that during in the weeks and months that followed, that you, yes, were tracking down a number of leads or tips or people that became of interest to you or that you've heard from. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am.
Included in those people that you talked to, did that list of people include Zachary Adams?
Yes, it did.
Do you see him in the court?
Yes, I do.
Would you point him out for the jury, please?
Right there.
There's a number of people sitting on the side of the court. Where is he sitting?
He will be sitting second from the podium.
Okay, for the record, the defendant.
And where did you encounter him?
Clint and I went to his house.
Did you go? Are you familiar with Adams Lane?
I wasn't.
Okay, but you became familiar with Adams Lane?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that like a long driveway and at the top there's two houses?
Yes, ma'am.
Who lives in one house?
The first house you get to is Zach's house and then his granddad's house.
What is the first house that you went to at the end of that driveway?
We went to Zach's house and he didn't come to the door. And that was me and Dana and Clint, I believe. And so we went on to his granddad's house and Dylan was there and his granddad. And I asked him, was Zach at home? He said he was at home. And I said, well, he didn't come to the door. He said, well, maybe he left.
I'm going to object to the hearsay.
And we're not offering this for the truth. It's just simply to show what her response was to.
What she did.
Yes.
All right. It's not hearsay. Objection overruled.
All right. So you said you knocked on Zach's door. He wasn't there. Then you go next door to Dylan and Dick Adams' house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who answered the door?
I don't remember.
One of the two of them?
One of the two of them.
Did you have a conversation with them?
We had a conversation with both of them.
Okay. Did you ask about Zach?
I did ask about Zach.
All right. And what did they say?
I don't remember too much about what they said.
I'm talking about whether they said he was home or not.
Dylan said he was at home, and I said he didn't come to the door.
Okay. And then what happened? With respect to Zach?
I left my phone number and told Dylan that I wanted to talk to Zach.
And did Dylan indicate that he would give Zach that message?
Yes, he did.
And do you remember when this happened? How early in the investigation?
I believe it was July.
July of what year?
July 2011.
So despite the fact no arrests were made for quite some time, you, investigating leads, had already gone to that house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you leave the message with Dylan. Did you ever hear back?
Yes.
Saw you.
Zach called the next day and
Did you know him before? Did you know Zach Adams?
I had Zach in the 4th grade. I was his 4th grade school teacher.
Okay. So when you left a message for him to call you, it was call Karen Bobo. You're somebody he knew.
That's correct.
Okay. So you said he called you in?
He called the next day.
And what, if anything, did he say you say?
He said, I hear you're wanting to talk to me. And I said, yes. And he said, well, you can come on over to my house. And I said, well, I'll be bringing my son because that was a work day. Dana was at work. And so Clint and I went over there, but I called Dana's boss to tell him that we were going over there.
Okay.
Dana, I believe, was working in Benton County at the time, around holiday.
So, but David didn't get there in time to go with you, and
No, I didn't even tell Dana we were going.
just told his boss.
Yes.
Did you and Clint actually go to Zach Adams' house?
Yes, we did.
And you say that was in what month?
July 2011.
And what happened when you got there?
When we got there, I can't remember if he came to the door or the front door was open. And so he invited us in, and we went in just the living room part. And we sat down. I'm not sure he ever sat down. His behavior was, his voice was low one minute, loud the next. I don't remember a whole lot about what he said, but two things stand out to me that he said.
And what is the first one?
He asked Clint to describe what the person looked like who walked away with Holly. And when Clint described him, he said that was Shane. And I just found that odd.
Did you know who Shane was?
I did.
Did you have him in school as well?
No, I did
I
not.
just knew who he was. What was the second thing that he said?
He told me, this is just out of the blue, that he could call someone with his phone and make it look like it was coming from my phone.
Did he use the word spoofing, or is that a word to turn your...
He did use that word, but I didn't have a clue what it meant.
So those are the two things that you remember him saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any other encounters with him? Did you go there to ask about your daughter?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And that's the information you came away with, was that he described one individual as being Shane.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you know that there are other people charged with raping and kidnapping Holly?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you meet with any of those people in the course of doing your own investigation?
Yes, all of them.
When you say all of them,
All four of them. The first one being Shane.
you talked to Shane first
Yes,
on one or more occasions.
more than one.
Do you know Shane's parents even?
I do know Shane's parents, yes. I had Shane's sister in school. I did not have Shane.
So you talked to Shane. What is his last name?
Shane Austin.
Okay. And who else did you talk to?
We talked to Jimmy and Rita Austin. We went to their house because we thought Shane lived with them. And his mom told me that they had to move him out because they would come home and their house would be full of drugs and people on drugs.
So after talking to her, you talked to Shane at some point, not going to ask what he told you. What about Dylan? Now, you've told the jury that when you went to see Zach the first time, you actually had a conversation with Dylan and with his grandfather, Dick. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that the only time that you talked to Dylan?
Yes, it is.
Did you know Dylan before going to the house that day?
I knew what he looked like, but I didn't have Dylan in school.
Okay. What about Jason Autry?
I had Jason in the 7th grade at Parsons.
And did you go and talk to him?
Yes, we did.
How many times did you talk to Jason Autry?
At least twice.
And will you tell the jury where those conversations took place?
The first time we were getting ready to walk out the door to go to early church, and we got a phone call from a girl at the Shell station, I believe. And she said she had someone she wanted us to speak with.
Wait. Objection.
To the hearsay, Your Honor.
It's not a hearsay, I was there.
You're describing a conversation someone had with you.
Yes, sir.
Is it being offered for the truth?
It's not. It's offered for what she did when she got
All
this
right,
information.
your objection is overruled. By definition, that's not hearsay.
You understand, you got some information from the lady over the phone that said she was at a Shell station?
So she worked at the Shell station, and so we went there.
Okay. And when you got there, was anyone there? Did you encounter somebody?
It was some guy that she wanted us to meet.
Okay.
So we went out searching all day, and then we were hot and tired. This was in August and
August of what year?
2011.
Okay.
And so we go back to one of those gas stations, I'm not sure which one, to get us something to drink. And we're getting ready to check out. And I think Dana said, look, come in there. And it was Jason Autry. So he gets in line behind us to check out. And I turn around and tell him I want to talk to him.
Okay. Now you can't say what he said, but did you talk to him that day?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you also go and talk to him on another day at his house or his mom's house?
Yes, people kept calling and turning in their names to us, all four of their names. So we went back to Jason's house. I'm not sure when that was. I'm not even sure it was 2011. We went to his mother's house. The first time was August 2011.
So between April of 2011 and August of 2011, had you talked to all four of them?
Yes, ma'am.
And when I say you with Clint and or Dana?
Yes, ma'am.
There have been questions and statements made about pressure put on law enforcement to solve this case. So let me ask you a couple of questions along those lines, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know who, I guess, the case officer or the chief investigator for TBI was in the beginning?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
Terry Dicus.
And when this case started being investigated and as it continued the weeks and months, did you have contact with Terry Dicus frequently or infrequently?
Frequently. Daily.
Daily?
Daily. Just probably sometimes multiple times during the day.
Do you know whether Terry Dicus wanted to close this case?
He did very much so.
Did he make certain promises to you?
Yes, he did.
And Your Honor, again, I'm not going to offer this for the truth. It'll become obvious. What statements did Terry Dicus make to you about your daughter?
He told me that he would have my daughter home before her 21st birthday, which was in October. And then when that date rolled around, he told me he would have her home before Thanksgiving. And when that date rolled around, he told me he would have her home before Christmas. And when that date rolled around and she wasn't home, he said he would have her home before Valentine's.
Holly didn't come home, did she?
No, she did not.
And do you remember a time, nearly exactly 3 years ago, September the 7th, 2014, did you receive certain information?
Yes, I did.
And who was the information from?
From TBI, Jack Van Hoosier.
And was Jack Van Hoosier Terry Dicus's boss?
Yes.
And where were you when you got the information?
When I got the phone call that they had found human remains in northern Decatur County, I was checking out at American Eagle in the mall.
Go home?
Went straight home.
And then later on that evening, the next day, did a group of TBI agents come to your house?
They did.
Is that when you learned that the remains that were found were Holly?
Yes, ma'am. I believe it was, that happened on a Sunday when they called and told us they had found human remains, and they said it might be several days, but I believe they came back Monday night and told us it was Holly.
Your Honor, I don't have any further questions.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. First, I'd ask for any Jake's material for this.
Okay. Anything?
We've turned over, as Your Honor knows, every statement and whatnot that we've done.
I asked you, hopefully, to do that before we wouldn't have to say
Well,
after each witness breaks.
yeah, we did it during the course of discovery. I haven't turned over today because she has.
Weren't there some text messages that were going back and forth with the family? I thought there were some text messages. But as for those also.
I have no idea what she's talking about. Maybe we approach text messages between who and who.
Some type of instruction to the jury about evidence that's been destroyed.
For all we know, it could be text messages about I'm coming to your house.
Like I said, they meet me at 3:00 at the Shell station.
So you don't know because I can't.
They've given you everything they've got. Let's go. Bring the jury in.
Your Honor, I'd also asked for a curative instruction. They've allowed in things that people said. It wasn't for the truth of the matter. And like a curative instruction, just to tell the jury that whatever was repeated as what people said is only to put into perspective what happened next. And they're not to consider what they said as being truthful, such as the fact that the Austin family said if people were over there, there'd be full of drug people and drug.
That's a legal issue. I don't think I've tried to explain hearsay to attorneys.
But
There's 7 out of 10 attorneys don't know the definition of hearsay.
I believe that there's an instruction available that says that that's a limited use on what those statements come in as, Your Honor.
And a curative instruction with respect to what the lady at the Shell station told her, that's fine. It's nothing. A curative instruction with respect to Dylan saying, I'll give him the message, that's fine. A curative instruction as to what Zach told her, of course, would be inappropriate because that was awful.
I can't.
I'm not talking about Zach.
I can't give a curative instruction on every time I rule on some type of objection.
Right, we can have
Probably shouldn't have objected because as an attorney, you should know the definition of hearsay.
I do know the definition of hearsay, and until it comes out, I don't know if it's for the content of the matter. Simply because the state says I'm not doing it for the truth of the matter doesn't mean that's not why it's coming in.
I'll tell the jury, I'll take care of it. Bring the jury out. You all right?
Awesome. Thank you.
These things. All right, let me say earlier there were some objections based upon hearsay. I'm not going to send you to law school, but I'm going to tell you generally that hearsay is an out-of-court statement made by somebody that is offered for the truth of what is being said. So everything someone else says is not necessarily hearsay by definition. If that is simply being shown to offer why someone did what they did in response to it, it's not hearsay. Okay? Everybody kind of generally understand. And that's our first year law school that you learn that. Some attorneys never learn. So you folks are up on it. Okay? All right.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bobo. I'm Jennifer Thompson. You may have seen me at hearings, but I know we haven't talked before. That's correct. And I recognize that today is a very difficult day for you, and it's been a hard afternoon. I want to be very respectful of you, but there's some questions I wanted to ask you this evening that I think only you or you would be the person to answer these questions. Okay. One, I wanted to ask you about, I found somewhere in one of the reports that you had discussed Janet Britt and the fact that she had worked at Joe's Video. Okay, that's the topic I'm going to go to. So in Parsons, Tennessee, there was a video rental store called Joe's Video. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And your family had a membership there, didn't they?
Yes, ma'am.
And as a matter of fact, you all would go there and rent movies regularly.
I wouldn't say regularly, but sometimes.
Okay. And a woman named Janet Martin Britt worked at Joe's Video.
Not April the 13th, 2011. No, she did not.
But at one point in the past, Janet Martin Britt had worked at Joe's Video.
Yes, she had.
Okay. At one point, you had said that she recognized your family.
I had her son in school also.
Okay. And so when you would go to the rental store, she didn't have to look up your membership number. She knew what it was.
That's correct.
And she knew your two children, Clint Bobo and Holly Bobo, didn't she?
I'm not sure. I never discussed that with her.
Okay. Didn't you, in fact, at some point tell the investigators that Jan had known Clint and Holly their entire life?
I'm not sure. Do you have that where I can see that? I don't remember making that statement.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to pass this up.
Okay.
We'll see what you're passing forward.
.ir.
It's not her statement, Your Honor.
It's on her statement. It's
Yeah.
a
So
statement that was taken by,
my objection would be, it's not Ms. Bobo's statement. It's something somebody else has said that she said. So that would be
Her, if she said it.
right? And this might,
You've done, you might have to call someone else that authored that statement, if you intend to use it for impeachment.
yes, this might refresh her memory. So I was going to just pass it up to her and see if it would refresh her memory at all.
I do not remember making that statement.
Okay, that's fine. And the conversation that you had with Mr. Adams in July of 2011, you in fact interviewed lots and lots of people in Decatur County, didn't you?
Some.
You taped a lot of the conversations you had with people,
Yes, I did.
and you turned over dozens of interviews to the TBI, didn't you?
Probably.
And the conversation that you had with Zachary Adams that day was in fact recorded.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And that's a recording that you had turned over to the TBI,
Yes.
along with dozens of other recordings.
Not at that time.
But over the course of the investigation, you had turned over
Yes, ma'am.
dozens of recordings. No further questions, Your Honor.
Anything else?
maybe.
All right, step there with something. Oh, you next year?
Bobo.
All right.